All right, Jon Heyman put out in the New York Post the other day that the Padres have considered bringing back Gary Sanchez, who did a terrific job both ways for them, but there's a gap in the talks. Gary Sanchez is a name that I would not have been surprised to have been brought up earlier in the offseason because that was before the Padres acquired Kyle Higashioka to be the backup to Luis Campusano. If they would have brought Gary back, well, first off, I didn't think bringing Gary back was going to be that realistic because I thought he was like the best catcher free agent wise, unless I'm blanking on someone, the best free agent catcher available on the free agent market. So I was like, yeah, Padres, they're not going to give this guy $10+ million when they want Luis Campusano, who's making much less, by the way. They want him to take that step forward to be the starter, right? And be that bridge, hopefully, to Ethan Salas whenever he's ready to come up in a couple years, however long that might take. And especially now, Gary, he just doesn't fit with the Padres. Like, the Padres have considered bringing back Gary. So was that a month ago? Was that before the Higashioka trade? And Heyman's just learning about it now? Or is this Heyman saying that the Padres have considered bringing back Gary Sanchez like they were considering it this week? They considered it last week. And there's a gap in talks. Him saying right here, there's a gap in talks makes it seem like they're talking right now, which that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I thought, okay, so they have Higashioka, they have Campusano, they have Sullivan. That's it with catchers. I don't think they'd bring him back to be in the catching conversation because then why do you have Kyle Higashioka? Why'd you bring him in? I guess you could trade him, but it is a backup catcher. Like, what's the market for that, right? I don't think you'd be bringing back a significant piece if you brought in Gary and you dealt Higashioka. I don't think that's really on the table. I think they want Higashioka to be on this Padres team because he's a valuable backup catcher. Not a whole lot of power, but I mean, just go ask Yankees fans. Like, they love that guy. Then I looked and I was like, okay, so no catcher, DH. I mean, wouldn't the Padres want that spot to be for if someone needs a day? I don't know if that's the smartest thing to have to bring in a DH only and have him be the DH spot because then what if guys get hurt and they can only hit? Then are you taking the DH out of there and that's a good hitter that you're taking out of the lineup, or is that position player not playing? Because what if like Manny can only DH or he only wants to DH a certain day because the Padres, Mike Schilt wants to give him 2 days off technically, right? We see this all the time. Day game where they take it off and then there's a day off the next day before going on the road to another city or something or coming back home. You get essentially the day off as the DH on that day game before a day off, right? Like managers all around baseball do that. So if I was Mike Chill, if I was the Padres, they know more than me, but I would want that position to be flexible and multiple guys on the team filling that spot, not just having, JD Martinez, let's say. Well, JD Martinez, I think that's a little excessive. Like he's one of the better hitters in the league, so that's different. But someone like JD Martinez that would pretty much only DH. I want more flexibility. I want guys that can play different positions if I was the Padres, if I was Mike Schilt. So I don't think that's the right thing. So I was thinking about first base for Gary Sanchez. Well, then if you go to his splits, his career, I thought he had played more games at first base. He's played one game at first base. And it was probably as a pinch hitter somewhere or moved to first base from catcher because it says here he had one plate appearance. Now, he got a hit. He homered actually in that one plate appearance, but he has like no experience at first base. So last year you brought Jake over to first base, who didn't have experience, and now you're going to bring Gary Sanchez in, who doesn't have really any experience playing first base either. And by the way, it's not like he's a left-handed hitter. If he was a left-handed hitter, that maybe might be different because you need lefties in this lineup. And this is someone that showed that he could be a power hitter for you this past season. But there's also the money thing as well. Like, take away that he is a righty, not a lefty, which Padres need lefties. Take away that they already have a catcher, two catchers, and then Brett Sullivan in the minors, right? Higgy, Campy, Sullivan. Also, it's just, do the Padres have the money? Do they think that he is as valuable financially as Gary Sanchez and his camp thinks that he is, right? So there's a bunch of reasons why I just don't see this being a fit. I don't even know why the Padres are considering Gary Sanchez right now. He just doesn't fit the roster. Now, if injuries happen in spring training and Gary for somehow, some reason doesn't have a team, okay, but right now, why would we be considering Gary Sanchez when they have two catchers already, two guys that have been in the big leagues with Campusano and Higashioka? I think they're fine with Brett Sullivan. You can bring someone else in if you need to in an emergency. He doesn't play first base. You're going to bring him in to DH, and it's another right-handed bat, and you're going to pay him $10+ million. I just don't see how that fits. So we'll see where Gary lands, but I don't think it's with the Padres.